start off with, you don't have to take any pictures. You can just go outside and enjoy the show. Don't need any equipment to do that. You just need to wrap up warm. Despite it being the summer, you're sitting down outside, you will get a little bit chilly. Have a chair, if you've got one, a recliner, just means you're going to be a little more comfortable looking up at the sky. And if you can, take yourself away from light pollution. Work out where the shower's going to be coming from, and I suggest looking about 30 to 60 degrees away from the radiant to maximize the meteors that you're going to see. And as always, when you're doing astronomy, make sure you allow time to have your eyes become dark adapted. But saying that, if you are going to have a go, all you're going to really need a DSLR camera with a wide angle lens and a sturdy tripod. I use something called an intervalometer to control my exposures. So I'll be talking a little bit more about that later and showing people, if you don't know, how to program them. I've got an aging Canon 70D and just used the stock 18 to 55mm lens that came with it. They're quite faint meteors, despite looking up in the night sky, and you can see, a magnitude 0 meteor against the stars. It's there for a fleeting second. So when you're actually exposing your camera and you've got your shutter open for 10 seconds and you look at the picture and you can see all those lovely bright stars, you've got to remember that your sensor has been collecting light from the stars for 10 seconds, whereas the meteors, they're just for the blink of an eye. So you want quite a high ISO setting and a low F setting to let lots of light in. We can't sit and open the shutter when we see a meteor, so you're not going to go, oh, there's a meteor, and try and open the shutter, because it'll have gone by the time you do that. So we're going to need to have a means of opening the camera shutter and leaving it open. So the exact settings that you're going to need for this will depend on the equipment you're using and in the light pollution where you live. My 70D and lens, which I'll have at 18mm and f3.5, it's short and as wide as it can be. Suggest this is the least you want to aim for. Longer focal length, you're going to have a much narrower field of view, and Bob's, you're going to trust your luck, and it's going to be likely that the meteor you see is going to be outside the field of view, so have as wide a field of view as you can with your camera. I set my ISO between 3,200 and 6,400. It depends what lights my neighbours have got at the time to influence the light pollution. It just gives me enough amplification of the signal to make sure even relatively faint meteors stand out. I set my image format to RAW and to the maximum quality JPEG. It's just what I actually set mine as. It just gives me more options for processing, and if I want to, I don't have to worry about processing if I want to put something straight onto Facebook. You also set the camera setting to the bulb setting, and that's what my screen looks like on the back of my camera when I'm setting all this. Exposures, you can time limit to, if you don't mind having star trails in your image, you can have it open, have the shutter open for as long as you want, really, light pollution allowing. For my 18mm focal length, I can have an exposure of about 17 seconds and not have any star trails. If I push that to 30 seconds, you will have star trails. It's not a problem if you don't mind. And if you want to find out how long you can have your shutter open for your particular setup, look up the 500 rule. It's a bit rough and ready, but it does generally work. Alternately, if you've got a star tracker, use a star tracker. I use my Star Adventurer every now and again, and I can then get exposures of 30 seconds, no trouble at all. I also suggest get out there, starting around now, and start testing your settings. I mean, if you've done this before and you're an old hand, you should have a little notebook saying which ISO you've got and how long you're going to leave your shutter open. But if not, get out now and just have a bit of a practice. See what you're actually going to get on your screen when you start taking pictures. And you never know, you might actually catch one of the early Perseids. If they're an option on your camera, set to manual focus and turn off image stabilization. If you've got autofocus on, there's a chance that, you know, a bit of air, because it's an ultrasonic focus usually, it just might nudge your focus a little bit. You don't want that to happen. And image stabilization electronically jiggers your image and effectively shrinks your sensor a little bit. And seeing as it's sitting on a tripod, you're not going to need that anyway. So you're going to go outside, align on a bright star on live view on your camera, digitally zoom in and adjust the focus till the star is as small as possible. Take a few test exposures and zoom in, and just to make sure you've got your focus right, you can do that a couple of times just to make sure it's as good as possible. There's my camera set to manual focus and with the stabilization turned off. So you're going to point your camera at a suitable point away from the radiant. If you look directly at the radiant, and for the case of the Perseids in Perseus, the meteors are going to look like they're coming straight towards you, and you're not going to see a nice streaky tail of a meteor because it's coming straight at you. So if you look about 30 to 60 degrees away from the radiant, you're going to see a decent number of trails in your field of view, but it's not going to be so far away from the radiant that all the meteors have spread out. And for the Perseids, and this is just due to views from my garden where my house is, I tend to aim towards Cassiopeia and Cepheus or Ursa Major, the former having a nice background of the Milky Way, and if you squint you might even get Andromeda in there, and the latter's, the Ursa Major, the Big Dipper, has got a really easy recognizable picture, so you can, you know, be oh, I'll recognize that, that's the Big Dipper. So this is where the intervalometer comes in. You can program it to shoot pretty much indefinitely over the night. Most cameras can be set to continuous shooting, so you can program your actual camera, but I personally prefer an intervalometer. Plugs into the camera under a little flap on the side, and you can get them from Amazon for about £15. A pair of batteries for double AAA batteries lasts pretty much forever, but as usual, always have a spare. This is mine, a bit bashed up, but it still works. So there's my intervalometer, and there's the little flap where you plug your intervalometer in, and there's a little picture of said intervalometer saying this is the hole you put it in. So 5 programmable settings on mine. Let's just go back a picture. So you can say there we've got delay, long, interval, and a little note. Right, delay. That's how long you're going to wait after starting the run. So you're going to push the start button and it'll count down for a number of seconds, and it's just going to give you time to put the intervalometer down and allow any vibrations in your tripod to settle. It'll then get your program running and it'll start taking pictures. Long is obviously the length of the exposure, interval is the time between the exposures, and how many exposures you're having, and the little note beeps when you're going to make an exposure. So to program, you're going to push the left and right button to put the cursor under delay. If you then press set, you'll be presented with a hours, minute, minute, second time format, and the hours will be flashing. If you press the right arrow button to make the seconds flash, press up or down arrows to set the delay time. Let's say about 5 seconds will allow you to let all the vibrations settle. So there we go, there's the delay flashing away. So you're going to then press, after pressing set to accept the time, you push the right arrow button to put the cursor under long, repeat the process and set your timer. Say for my camera, if I'm not tracking, 17 seconds would be what I wanted to program it for. Press set to accept again, right arrow, put the cursor under interval. And what this does, it allows your camera to have a little delay. Some of the older cameras can take a finite amount of time to write your data to the memory card. Newer cameras shouldn't have much of a problem, but older ones might. And I'd say a couple of seconds will be absolutely long enough to actually allow your card to have all the data written to it and the shutter to open and start taking the next picture. Press the arrow again, set the number of exposures you want to take. All you do is press the up and down button. There's no left or right here, just up and down. And mine, you can go between 1 exposure and 999. You press set to accept. And don't forget, if you're not using a star tracker, you will need to reset the frame because the sky moves. So over an hour, it's possible that, for example, Ursa Major will have moved quite considerably out of your frame. So you might want to just realign it. Okay, there's just setting the beepy noise. So the last setting just makes the intervalometer beep on a countdown when you're about to make an exposure. It just lets you know that, right, it's just about to click, and it's just a little audio thing. I don't leave mine turned on because it can get a bit annoying. So you just program that exactly the same as you have done the other ones. When everything's ready, you're aligned, you're focused, you're ready to go, you just push the timer start-stop button and off you go. Program can be stopped at any point by pressing that button again, and if you start the program again, it'll start again at one exposure and then go all the way up to however many you've set again. But remember, work out how long your program is going to run. Make sure that it's still going to be running. If you think about it, 100 10-second exposures, if that's what you're doing, is going to give you about 15 minutes of exposure time. So don't think that 100 exposures is going to be enough to last the night. A couple of last things. Remember to charge your camera batteries. Plenty of space on your memory card. 20 seconds of exposures is 180 images, or 360 if you save in RAW and JPEG. And depending on whether on your location, you might want to consider a dew heater on your lens to keep the dew at bay. Process your images as required. Have fun. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you very much, John.
Lovely. Thanks for that, John.
Very interesting. I remember the first time I actually managed to catch a Perseid on film. It was quite faint, but I was absolutely thrilled that I managed to actually do it, because it's very hit and miss a lot of the time, as you know. So, I
mean, if you want to also reduce the interval between your shots with the intervalometer, then on some cameras you've actually got a mirror lock, and if you've got that facility, use it, because then you can reduce the time in between the actual shots, because once the mirror's up, that's where it's going to stay. And this is where some of the vibration comes from. It's the mirror just moving up and down, getting out of the way. Mm-hmm. So if you've got that facility, use it as well. But as John said, just if you use the time. I mean, on my Nikon, I've got a built-in intervalometer, so I can just set that and then just lay back in my hammock and just admire the view while it's just slowly clicking away. And as John says, if you've got things that beep, remember you also have neighbours and they've probably got their windows open, so make sure you're not annoying people. So yeah.
Is that your
lovely
presentation?
Hammock, Sorry.
Is that your steel reinforced hammock that you bought?
Yeah. It's a Russian one. So it's made from old tank parts, so never collapse. But
like most Russian spacecraft, in fact, they're always made out of bits of old tank and bits of old tractors and vacuum cleaners.
Yeah. No. Like I say, if you can sit back, just leave. The best thing to do is just watch with your eyes. So if you're going to use a camera, get a timer and then just enjoy the view.
Absolutely. Because when it is a good Perseid to you, when it is dark, when there's no moon, it's a real firework display.
It is supposed to be quite good this year. One of the streams from the comet's supposed to be hitting us this time around.
because it's normally us or the Americans that get it, isn't it? So,
Yes.
yeah. Oh, if it's our turn in Europe, that's fantastic. We'll be there. We'll be there. Aaron, do you have anything to add to any of that about observing the Perseids?
No, nothing specific to add. I thought that was a really good treatment of a way to approach it and hopefully get some good, successful images. I very much agree with the comment. You should just sit back and enjoy the show. Very true.
Yeah. I was saying to the others, Aaron, that I used to go to something called Astro Camp in the Ashdown Forest in East Sussex in the southeast corner of the UK. Excuse me. And that was held during Perseids fortnight every year. We just used to take our tents and stay up all night with telescopes. And I remember one year I was there at the peak night of the Perseids. We counted meteors from sunset to sunrise, and we counted 625.
Wow, nice.
That's a
which
lot.
was spectacular. Lots of people looking, of course. It's very different if you're the only person missing because you're going to miss a lot of them. But with lots of eyes, you can get up a really good count. So that was, and then the next night we sat down around a campfire, and there was a tree overlooking the campfire, and it was suddenly lit up from behind as if there were a camera flash. And we stood up to see this amazingly blinding fireball sailing through the skies. I'll never forget it. It was amazing. So do enjoy the show because, the years when we have the moon are quite many. The moon quite often spoils the peak night of the Perseids. And, of course, if you're in the UK, the constant threat of cloud. So, the years that you can get a dark, clear night for the Perseids, not that many in the grand scheme of things. So do enjoy the show.